All right, welcome to a new episode of Two Plane Sports. Today, we're going to talk about yesterday's game win, struggling win against Houston. Before we get into any of that, because we do have a lot of thoughts, I'm sure you guys do as well. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Let us know what you think about everything that transpired in the Houston game down in the comment section below. And don't forget to turn on the notification bell so that you don't miss an episode moving forward throughout the season because I have a feeling this isn't going to be the last time Oklahoma puts us in this situation as fans and a way to react to this stuff. Let's get into it. Brandon, we were both there live. There was lots of up and downs. I'm gonna send it over to you first. What did you think about the game as a whole? What you liked? I'm sure there's plenty of stuff that you did not like. Go for it.
I think the only thing you can like is the defense, right? I mean, I think the defense is as advertised going into the season as that they are what we thought they were going to be. They appear very good. In every single way of the game yesterday. They won the game for Oklahoma yesterday. I think a minute 40 left in the game, they get a safety. Now, granted, Elzinga set it up with a beautiful punt to down him, inside the 5, and then Grace Holton makes a play there in the safety to kind of bail us out. The defense looks good. Defense looks really good. They're doing everything that they should be doing. There's a lot to be excited about with the defense. Now, offense, dude, this is. I think we were talking about it yesterday. It's like the Oklahoma Hawkeyes. Like this must be how Iowa fans felt last year. Right now, it's abysmal. I don't think I've ever seen an Oklahoma offense be this bad. Leaving the stadium yesterday in a win. Felt like the worst game I've ever watched at that stadium. I've seen a bunch of games there, and I felt like that could have been the worst one I've seen. Thankfully we're 2-0. We did get that done. I'd much rather be 2-0 after a terrible performance than 1-1. So that's always a plus side. Notre Dame lost to Northern Illinois yesterday, so could be worse. But we have got to figure out something on offense. We got to move the ball somehow. They averaged. They had 78 yards on the ground yesterday, like 2.8 yards a carry. Jackson Arnold had 175 passing yards or something like that. Leading receiver was Deion Burks at 50 yards. They can't. I don't know what the problem is in offense. I can't pinpoint. Is it the offensive line? Is it the lack of running game? Is it Jackson Arnold struggling? Is it Latrell's play calls? I don't know what the problem in offense is, but they've got to figure out something.
Yeah, in my car drive home, I did a little bit of thinking on the Oklahoma the offense because I agree the defense did their job. I mean, they were out there for 35 minutes and only allowed 12 points. And I know it's against Houston, and UNLV beat them by more. When you look at the game, like when they Oklahoma never took a big lead. If anything, they got lucky to get their first touchdown because of a muff punt situation. If it wasn't for that, we would potentially be having a very different conversation today. But it did happen, so revisionist history there. They just couldn't move the ball. The defense, at, at times, like they were definitely screwed over by the referees. I mean, the Woody Washington pick was a pick. That is not defensive pass interference. Like he was in position, turned around, was playing the ball, not the man. Whatever. Referees kind of just decided to get a very involved. Oklahoma had 8 penalties yesterday for 70 yards, and I can think of a couple, including that Woody Washington DPI that was called that probably should not have been called. But that's Big 12 refs for you. The offense, I think there's definitely a little bit of everything. I don't want to quite overreact, but it's hard not to after the last 2 weeks offensively. I know we scored a lot of points in week one, but you were in plus territory, and so your yards aren't really going to be there. But when you aren't if you're not past the 50, then they can't seem to get a first down without Jackson Arnold running the ball, uh, and they don't really stretch the field. Like you can just cover, the first 10 yards, and as a defense, you're probably good because there's nothing that Oklahoma has shown that they can complete a 20-yard pass or 15-yard pass. I don't know what it is. I think there's a little bit of the receivers aren't there right now with Jalil Farouk. I think him not being there definitely showed that as much as people like to um, shit on him sometimes for his boneheaded plays where he fumbles the ball or his drops. He is an important part to this offense. Nick Anderson not being there, probably just as big. We haven't seen him this season, but hopefully he's back for Tulane because I think we're really going to need him against that team after their showing yesterday against Kansas State. If he's back, how much does the offense expand? Like, if this is a more open offense than it was week one, then that's pretty concerning because if anything, it looked worse. That's why I think the lack of wide receiver options kind of showed. The offensive line did not start off great. They did not really play great. I think towards the end they were a little bit better with Joshua Bates in at center. So hopefully they just roll with that until Branson is back in and healthy. I think it's I don't know. Like there's things playing against the Sooners to an extent with the injuries and the shuffling around of offensive linemen, but you also had 8 months to figure out the offensive line situation. That's the one thing where it's hard to not look at and be like, what the hell are we doing here? Because you had this team for a while now, 8 months,
Yeah.
where you knew the guys that were going to be on your roster. Why can't you have like a unit, 1 and 2 unit, and figure out from there? If injuries happen, those are going to happen. You're going to have to think on the fly, but these are what you got. And I know we always say trust in Coach B, but I think at some point it's got to be so bad to where something's got to get course corrected. And recruiting's been fine, but there is definitely there's a line that's got to be drawn. Like, brother, we have a standard and you're not meeting it.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I think offensively, like you mentioned, you gotta you gotta consider that Nick Anderson wasn't out there, Jalil Farouk wasn't out there, Andrew Anthony didn't play yesterday, so they're very limited at receiver. A room that we thought was super deep going into the season has now become extremely limited, where you're playing a lot of freshmen and a lot of young guys. So I mean, I think having Nick and Andrew back, hopefully next week, because I'm totally with you. I think if you don't have Nick and Andrell for that Tulane game, I don't think we win it. Just with how they looked against Kansas State yesterday in Manhattan and how we looked against Houston, I think we're in some deep shit if both those guys are sitting again. Yeah, man, totally on the offensive line. I think Josh Bates actually came in and looked pretty good at center, like kind of like you alluded to. He had a very dumb bonehead penalty.
Very dumb.
I mean, stupid as hell. I mean, that's the game's over. Jackson Arnold's about to take a knee. He's waiting. He's sitting there killing a little bit of clock before taking a knee, and then does the knee, and that should be game over right there. And he goes and commits a personal foul penalty, whatever, just to keep it interesting and give him a chance. It's like the dumb shit that you see we do to each other in college football, the video game, just to make it interesting. Punt it back to them, just see what happens. Just have some fun with it. They did that in real life. Now, luckily, it didn't come back to hurt them. It seemed like a long shot. Elzinga punted him, I think, down inside the 10 there, and they had to go 90 yards with no timeout, and they had to score a touchdown because of that safety. So felt pretty good about it, but it sucked to give them even an opportunity to make that a thing. If they break one tackle and bust it, that's just disastrous. But yeah, I don't know, man. There's a lot. We missed a field goal, which sucks because it looked really good against Temple, and now we're back to missing. Now it's one kick. I'm not hitting the panic alarm there yet. And kickers seems like a very small thing to worry about after what we saw offensively. I think you'd rather be bad early in the season on offense versus defense. But I feel like bad is just an understatement of the year. It's abysmal. I think I saw on Twitter that we had 6 3-and-out drives yesterday. That's horrible. Right before halftime, we had the ball, and I think I watched the Brent Venables press conference this morning, and I think it was like a 12 or 15-second drive, punt the ball back to them, and then they get a field goal as time expires to end the half there. The offense is not putting the defense in any good situations. And again, I think you really have to shout out the defense. I mean, time and again, they were on the field protecting a 2-point lead for almost the entire second half, and were able to get it done.
Yep. Yeah, and again, that it's hard to say like it's time to push the panic button because I don't think it is because of all the injuries that are playing against the Oklahoma offense, but it's definitely fair to be extremely concerned because you should at least have you should be able to move down the field, get multiple first downs on a drive, and not be out there for 15 seconds before you get the defense back out there. Like that's one of the biggest issues we had with Levy. And but at least he could move the ball downfield. So something's got to be course corrected there. A couple things I noticed injury wise, Peyton Bowen wasn't out there. And I think for most of the second half. Every time out, he was basically just sprinting down the sideline, trying to. I don't know if it was a tweak. Um, we were in the stadium, so it's not like anything was reported there. So I'm not sure if anything was reported on the broadcast. It didn't seem like he played very much. Helmet was off, not carrying it around. I don't think it's anything concerning because he was moving around. Maybe it was just a little bit of a tweak that just sidelined him for the game. But the duo of Robert Spears Jennings and Billy Bowman, I think, looked the best for safety tandem because they do have opposite playing styles. Robert Spears Jennings got the pick, so maybe it's a little bit of like a bias there because he's the one that created the only turnover. And Grayson Halton might be the best defensive lineman we have this year. That guy gets in the backfield a lot, makes plays, and disrupts the offense because he gets in the backfield. I know it's not you're not going to see it in the stat sheet a lot, but he was in the backfield more often than not yesterday.
I mean, he called game at the end of it, getting done safety, which is huge there. But um, yeah, no, I think that the Spears Jennings interception. That's where I was going to want to talk about. That's another. I mean, I forget the score. I think it was 14-12, 14-12 at the time of that interception, and he gets a pick deep into Houston territory. It felt like I think we're on the 35-yard line or something, and the offense does nothing with it. I mean, nothing. And there's a chance right there. I think what was that, fourth quarter or third? I can't remember where it was in the game. It was either I don't know. It doesn't matter. But you get a pick there around the 35 or 40 in Houston territory. Do nothing with it. Get a touchdown there. I mean, they're giving you an opportunity here to make this a 2-score game into the fourth quarter, and they do nothing. But no, I mean, I agree with you. I think the safeties. I think the tandem of Spears Jennings and Bowman was really good. I mean, Stutz was doing Stutz things. He had 15 tackles. Samuel Masigo came up and played pretty good. I think he had a career high 5 tackles. What Brent Meadows was saying in his presser. Yeah, there's a lot of flowers you can hand out on defense. It's just
Offense is tough.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think Jake Roberts looked good on offense. If you want to shout out anybody, I think he had a couple. I mean, he had the touchdown catch, then he had a catch on the drive that should have been the first down to end it. Yeah, you made some plays.
yeah. The tight ends are definitely the the bright piece right now in this offense. Whenever they get the ball, they seem to make plays. Um, and the wide receivers are kind of back to the ones that are currently playing feel like the wide receivers that we had Dylan Gabriel year one, and the fact that they have a case of the dropsies. The ball hits those guys in the hands, and for whatever reason, they can't secure it. I don't know if they're trying to turn up field too fast. Obviously, the only people that know that is the player in that moment, and the coaches once they go back to the sideline and tell them what the hell, what are you doing there? Like the ball hit your hand, but like you can't. The few times that they were able to get it out there, drops were happening. Jackson Arnold's also his again, and it might be the lack of deep threats or established deep threats on this offense right now. But the times they did go deep, they were always like I don't maybe the defensive back did a good job, but it was Latrell McCutcheon more often than not, and we know that guy can't recover very well, and the wide receiver was just hugging the sideline, so Jackson would throw it out of bounds rather than try to get him to take off and just go right against the boundary. I don't know. Lots of things that need to be cleaned up, and Brent Venables basically said like
Mm.
this, we got lucky to be coming out here with a win.
Yeah, no, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, I agree with him. I think we got very fortunate to be 2-0, but at the end of the day, we are 2-0. It could be worse. We could be a Notre Dame team that lost to Northern Illinois. Oregon again. I mean, they're scoring the ball at least, but they got bailed out on a ball that's definitely 1,000% a fumble that was even reviewed, and somehow, did you see what I'm talking about? Where Oregon ran a fumble back, and the dude pretty much Deshaun Jackson did. They called it a touchdown on the field, reviewed it, somehow still called it a touchdown. They won by 3 points. If they wipe that away, Oregon loses to Boise State yesterday. It could be worse. There are worse situations to be in. We have a long season ahead of us. It's crazy how much this sucks right now and how the offense looked yesterday. They could come out against Tulane in a week and look fantastic. You never know. We could get Nick back, we can get Andrell back, and we could be throwing the ball for 300 yards and rushing for 150. You never know. And if that happens, I think we're going to quickly forget about this Houston game, because Tulane, kind of like we talked about earlier in the video, is not a bad club. That they went into Manhattan and gave Kansas State everything they wanted. So 2-0 is 2-0. You take it any way you can get it. A lot of season ahead of us. I think we can figure it out. We just got to believe.
Yeah, and I think Tulane is your measuring stick right now. You can't be looking at like Tennessee is where we really have to lock in. Like, you got to lock in Tulane, not because they're a good program, but because you have to be fully prepared for Tennessee. And if you can't move the ball against Tulane, and they're not a bad team, but Tennessee's looked really good offensively and defensively in their two games. Can't move the ball against Tulane, you're not going to do a very good job of moving the ball against Tennessee. And crazy things have happened. It's college football. Maybe something clicks during Tennessee, but as fans, we'd probably rather see it in Tulane. Hopefully, Nick Anderson is able to come back. Brent Venables in last week's press conference said he'll be back sooner rather than later. It wasn't this week, so next week's got to be the goal there for his return. Andrell hopefully can come back, and then that way they have kind of their established trio and not having to put out the young guys too much. Jaquez played a little bit, but again, with the lack of deep threats right now on this team, it's tough for them to get anything short and make plays.
Yeah, I mean that, and just the lack of run game yesterday. I think Houston was able to just. I mean, you average 2.8 yards a carry. Houston can kind of sit on all your little short passes, and that leads to 6 3-and-outs, and just, I mean, the worst offensive performance we've seen in a long time. But it is what it is. 2-0. They made enough plays to win. And that's really all that matters, and we'll just keep getting better.
Yeah, we have to hope that this is our South Florida game,
Mm-hmm.
like compared to Alabama, because Alabama struggled hard against South Florida. Their offense wasn't doing much, and then the rest of the season they were doing Alabama things. Now
No,
that was under Nick Saban doing it, different players obviously, but if this can be that for this Oklahoma Sooners team, then we've got a bright future ahead of us.
that's a fact. And in Houston, to their credit as well, they're a 4-win team last year. We did our preview on them and did a little research. They were a 4-win club, but if you remember when they played Texas, who was obviously a playoff team a year ago, probably should have won that game. I think they got screwed by the refs a little bit late on a spot call or something. But they gave Texas everything they wanted last year. It's college football. Shit like this does happen. I think the South Florida example is perfect. Yeah, exactly. I mean, hopefully this is our South Florida game, because if it is, it's not going to matter by week 9. If this team is 8-1, we're not going to be like, man, remember how shitty we were week 2 against Houston? It's not going to matter. 2-0 is 2-0. A lot of area for improvement, obviously, but I think they'll figure it out.
Definitely. All right. Well, that's everything we got to say on this game. Appreciate you all watching. As always, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Let us know what you thought about the game in the comment section. Turn on the notification bell, because we are going to be releasing videos now for the rest of the season. Sunday, Tuesday, Friday. Sunday, goal is game reactions, talk about what happened on Saturday. Tuesday, game preview. Friday, we'll kind of do some general college football, any updates on recruiting, roster stuff, injury updates that come out throughout the week, and take it from there. Again, appreciate you all watching. We'll see you next time.